Hey, what's up, YouTube? We're back with another episode of The Walls and just our life, our journey, and welcome. We're so glad you're back.
We're so thankful you guys have watched all of our videos so far, all 2 of them. And we can't wait to continue to put out more content for you. Continue to share, like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you want to see from us. And we hope you enjoyed today's video.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, one common, maybe not seen in the comments of our videos, but one common, discussion or a topic that has been coming up is couples who break up and get back together. And so we thought we would kind of tackle that, seeing as though we are that couple who broke up a number of different times for numerous different reasons and got back together, obviously, right?
Well, it's a huge part of our story, and we felt like when we saw the topic come up multiple times, we thought it would be perfect because it is a big part of how we got to where we are. So let's get into it.
So how did we meet? So from my recollection, I remember meeting Octavia in 8th grade. I'll never forget it because I just saw this gorgeous woman walking through the doors of my middle school, and that is totally not how that happened.
Not how that happened at all.
But we did meet in 8th grade.
And I did walk through the doors of the middle school. I think it was the 2nd semester of 8th grade. I just transferred to the district that he was in.
Yeah. And I don't even know if we really knew each other like that. I don't remember much about 8th grade, but I do remember that we knew each other. And that was kind of where we hit it off, in hanging out with the same friend groups. So then what?
Then we fast forward to high school. We go to the same high school. Our friend groups stay the same.
Yeah.
Occasionally we would hang out together. And throughout high school, it was very platonic. I never saw him with romantic interests. I wasn't interested in him, not at all. Not even a little bit. He was like the lover boy in high school.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh, how cute. Lover boy.
Okay. It's a different topic, all right? Maybe I did have a whole thing, like the whole time in high school, but that was just from her knowledge. She wouldn't have given me the time of day. I like to say that she was a lot smarter than I was in high school then.
Still am.
And she still is.
That's right.
But yeah, so we hung out in high school. We were friends. We never once thought about dating. We
No.
went to the movies together. I remember it was me, her, and her best friend. And it was just strictly friends. And so, when you think about a relationship like that, leading all the way to where we are now, it actually started off really cool. But
It did, but we would have never guessed. I remember when we started dating, I would say probably the first 4 years, we kept saying, oh my gosh, I am dating this person from high school.
Yeah.
I would have never even imagined at all.
Especially, yeah. High school was absolutely amazing in terms of us being friends and then going, and so when we transitioned out of high school, that's it. But even that's a funny story because out of everybody in our high school, Octavia is the one who brought this to my attention. I was going to Alabama State, and Octavia was the only other person I knew going to a school in Alabama.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause the story. So when you're graduating high school, you go see your friends and you ask your friends, what college are you going to? What college are you going to? Well, I remember going to Keaton specifically and asking him what college he was going to. And he told me he was going to Alabama State, like he said. I, at the time, was strongly considering going to Tuskegee. And so he was the only person out of our entire friend group, our entire graduating class,
That we knew of.
that was going to Alabama for school.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh my gosh, it's so cool. We can hang out. Our schools aren't that far apart. Maybe during downtime, we can meet up, we can hang out, just have a little bit of home in Alabama. Well, he ended up going to Alabama. I did not. I got a little nervous about leaving home.
Yeah.
And so I stayed home, and then he left to Alabama. So when he was in Alabama State and I was at my school, I remember we would chat on, at the time it was like Facebook Messenger.
Oh yeah, Facebook.
And we would just catch up. I would either hit him up or he would hit me up. I don't remember I doubt it. I don't remember who reached out to who. But either way, we would stay connected. I remember him telling me he was on a journey just to find like just who he was and his faith and all that kind of stuff. And he was the first person that I knew in our age group just trying to pursue their faith and trying to understand like what that looks like for themselves. So I do remember that was the first moment where I thought, okay, this guy is different.
He's set apart, is what she's trying to say.
He is not like others that I normally talk to, because I thought it was different. At the time, he was being very intentional about just growing and pursuing just the Lord. So I thought that was very admirable. Again, still platonic, still didn't mean anything. It just stuck out to me in my mind. Okay, so then fast forward.
Yeah.
He leaves Alabama State.
So I do. I transfer back home, and I transfer to a school where I know all my friends are. I mean...
Is that why you transferred there?
No, that's not why. But I did know that all my friends were there, and I was excited, Totally not expecting to run into Octavia.
Meanwhile, I had gone back and forth to his new school because, like you said, we had a lot of mutual friends there. So I remember it was a step show, and at the step show, I randomly saw Keaton. Now, he never told me he was transferring to the school. I don't even think you knew where I went to school, did you?
I didn't know where she went to school, but just rewind the story just a little. One thing we did do, though, while I was at Alabama State, I would come home for the summer and hang out with my best friend. Like, we were just like this all through high school and even through college. And her best friend were the same way. And so even during those summers when we would all come from our respective college towns, we would come back home and hang out over the summers.
Yeah.
Still nothing, past friends. And it was just really cool.
So from there, that we were inseparable. I mean, that probably started the saga of Keaton and Octavia.
Yeah.
I would say like our relationship from that day forward, I mean, if there was a graph there, it escalated like this. I mean,
how?
Like this. There was not one day, I would say for like the next 4-year period, that we went without talking to each other.
Not one. I mean, we were attached at the hip.
Right.
And we would, even when we would go home, because we were from the same town, we'd hang out there, And the hard part is, the bad thing is, we were not intentional about what we were doing. Right. We were just doing it. We were, there were no limits. There were no boundaries.
We were just going with the flow, So like we mentioned, our relationship escalated quickly. Our maturity level, though, did not.
We were just having fun. We were just young kids having fun. And the problem was, I was not intentional. As a man, I was not intentional. I didn't know what it looked like to lead a woman and to protect her and to guard her heart or to guard my heart. And then, on top of that, we decided to join a fraternity and a sorority, and that was lights out.
That just added to the party environment that we were already a part of. So not only were we already engaged in like just having fun and all about what fun looks like, just doing that together, now you add more people are starting to know us, more attention's coming, and then more parties, and then that just created a bad...
It was a recipe for disaster, especially on my end.
Especially on his end.
Yeah, not necessarily on her end, but the lack of intentionality really led for me to just a place of beginning to lie and, not be fully truthful about the person I was being at college when she was away at another school and I was at my school, and that lasted for years. And so that caused breakups. We would get back together, and if I was being man enough at the time, I would have said, hey, I'm actually not ready for a relationship. But I knew that I had something good. I knew that I found someone good, and I didn't want to let that go. I was actually scared to let her go. I was scared to be a man and say, hey, you do you, I'll do me, because I can't do us and be faithful. So
I have a question. You keep saying intentionality. You weren't being intentional. What does that mean?
Good question. So what I mean by that is, one, setting a boundaries, but basically saying, hey, you are the person I'm dating. I'm committing to you, and I am making this known at least amongst the two of us. And there is a level of commitment to which we are going to hold, and a standard to which we are going to hold ourselves. No type of talk was ever done like that. Not from my, point of view, not from my perspective, not from my mouth. And it wasn't that I didn't have good intentions, so to speak. It's just that I was a kid who I was just an idiot. I was just, to be plainly, I was just running around doing whatever I wanted to do with no regard for the consequences or the hurt that it would cause myself, but more so her in the future. And so
I define intentionality as no direction. So it was basically like we were dating with no clear direction of where we were going. There was no set path. And at the time, I don't know if we had seen any successful dating relationships around us.
Yeah.
So we just thought you like somebody, you enjoy hanging out, you become boyfriend and girlfriend, and then you just keep hanging out until you guys decide to break up and then go your separate ways. Which sounds really sad, but I think at the time, that was probably both of our mentality.
Yeah.
Is that, this is just fun for a time. We'll hang out for a time. If you make me mad, we'll stop dating, or vice versa. If I make him mad, we'll stop dating, and then we'll go our separate ways. In the time, we weren't even thinking about marriage. We weren't thinking about. I don't think we were thinking about anything beyond the next month, and that's generous.
Yeah, right. And for me, probably the next day. So that in and of itself was not going to lead to a prosperous life.
So what would you say when you joined the fraternity? What changed for you? Or did something change for you? Or what did that look like on your end?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, if I'm just being completely vulnerable, once I joined the fraternity, I had absolutely, I just didn't have any self-control. I wasn't a man of great character, and I may have been ashamed to say that before, but I know the man that I am today and how I got to be this guy and all the struggles that I've had to go through and still go through and still fight sometimes. But when I joined that fraternity, I knew guys who joined the fraternity and they didn't have the same issues that I had. And so I knew it wasn't the fraternity that was doing this to me. I ended up figuring out that this was me, and this was just me having a lack of self-control. And so I didn't know how to really say no, when people would throw themselves at me. And I had no regard for what that would do to my current relationship or what relationship I wanted to have with Octavia. So that's what it did for me.
I think when he joined the fraternity, and then correct me if I'm wrong, then it just came with so much more temptation. So girls started throwing themselves at him, and maybe sometimes he would do okay, but then other times he wouldn't. And then it just created more exposure for people then to know this new guy. Who is this new guy Keaton on campus, right? So then with the temptation that he was having, with me being off at a different school, so I'm not there every day. Although we were pretty much together every weekend, I'm not there every day. He just didn't handle temptation well. So then when I would come to visit during the weekends, I would see things that I felt were alarming, and I would question him about it. And the sad part is when you question someone about just how they're interacting with someone or the relationship they may have or may not have with someone, his response was to get defensive, and then that would start a fight. Now I know it was the deflection. And then I would say to women now, I think women have such a powerful sense of
discernment
and intuition. Go with your gut. So my gut told me every time there was a girl that came around Keaton, my gut would tell me that girl is not good news. And I would ask him about it, and he would probably downplay it every single time.
But just to be clear, there were times when I was absolutely naive and would say, no, not this person. This is my friend. This is my homie. This is my, XYZ.
He would say that until they tried to make a pass at him. And then he finds himself in situations, poor situations. And then he either tells me about them or doesn't tell me about them later. But we had a lot of conflict regarding that. Because for those that don't know, he's a very nice guy. He's, for the most part, he's a gentleman.
I didn't know where she was going.
For the most part, he's a gentleman. So he doesn't typically have the same attitude of other people that, are our age or maybe engaged in some of the things that we were engaged in at the time. He's just very sweet. So people kind of gravitate to him, which made it worse because then if a girl's being nice, he, not always, but a lot of times, he knew. If a girl was being nice, he would not say, maybe this should be a boundary because I'm dating someone. He would say, oh, you need help carrying your backpack into your apartment? I will help you carry your backpack into an apartment where it's just now me and you in this apartment. Very naive, very naive. So that was definitely a huge thing in our relationship because it was, I don't think he was naive. I think he was just doing what he wanted to do.
Yeah, there was definitely both parts to it, but just looking back, it's great to see how far I've come since then. But at the time, I wouldn't have been able to say, think about myself in the future and want to be like, hey, you should be thinking about the possibility of losing somebody that you really care about or breaking up and possibly not getting back together, and that wasn't really on my radar. It wasn't that she wasn't on my radar, and it's I'm very thankful because a lot of times people don't realize what they have until it's gone, and that was kind of the situation I was in. I did not realize that I was going to have this great wife, stand by my side and support me through all my different struggles.
So I think, the entire college, again, he's doing his thing, I'm doing mine, but we're doing it together. But at the same time, we don't know where our relationship is going. He's not being honest about the person that he's being when I'm away. When I'm asking him questions about, different people, different situations, he's not being forthcoming. At the same time, I had discernment. I had that gut feeling that something was not right here. But we still kept dating. We continued. We would do the makeup, breakup. We got into heated arguments about several different people. Break up for maybe a weekend, a couple days, and then come back together. So then this was kind of like our entire college dating relationship. Is this up and down?
Yeah.
Very.
It was a roller coaster.
Toxic at times,
Yeah.
I would say. It was this whole kind of thing.
There was no real leadership also. And I'm sorry to cut you off. That was one thing that was really lacking is me as a man leading this woman, protecting her, guarding her heart, guarding my heart. It was obsolete. It didn't exist. It was just every man for themselves, but we really like each other too, if that makes sense.
So then I guess you're wondering, why would I continue to date this person that I had, feelings that he was probably stepping outside of our relationship? And I would say, just looking back and just on the different reflections that I've had, we were both engaged in sin, basically. And I was so caught up on dating and we're having so much fun. But he said, this didn't happen, but I think it did. But he said he didn't, and now we've made up, and now we're, talking again. And so we believe just in our faith that once you become physically intimate with someone, then just all your rationale, all of your thinking process, that clear path of what I should do and what I shouldn't do becomes distorted. So for me, it was very cloudy because again, we were fully engaged in physical intimacy, and it just got cloudy. Now, Now, the whole time, my gut is telling me one thing, but my heart, is telling me another thing. So I stuck around a lot longer than I should have. And then we fast forward to graduating. So we graduated college. He moved to the town that I'm now in. So he's no longer 45 minutes away. He's now in the same city because now he's trying to not even pursue marriage, but he's pursuing me. At the time, I wasn't even interested in marriage, to be honest. Marriage was not something that I dreamt about as a little girl. It was not something that I desired. It was not even something that I pictured with him. Not because of him, just because of me. I just did not desire. I dreamt of my career. I never dreamt of becoming someone's wife. But he comes to town to pursue me, and then we get connected to a community group with our local church. Yeah. And then that's when everything hit the fan. Oof. What would you say?
Oh, man. So getting connected to this community group brought about such a strong level of what I would call conviction, or just a rise of my conscience. And
I would even say accountability.
And everything that had been going on. There was like this just level of just rush of emotions, and everything that I had bottled up, everything that I had lied about, everything that I had kept, every secret began to just come to the surface, and it was bubbling out. And I knew I've got to tell this woman who I was, how much of a double life I was leading.
I also think what helps us significantly is now we're around this community group in our local church, and we're seeing young people dating, but their relationship looks different than our relationship. And that was the first time we really got a chance to get exposed to people who were our age, who loved the Lord, but then who also were dating with intention.
Yeah.
We, up until this point, we hadn't dated with intention. I think the only reason he moved to where I was is because it seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And we wanted to still be around each other. But so we're in this group. There's accountability, there's leadership, there's intentionality, there is dating with purpose. There's men now pouring into his life, letting him know if you want this girl, you need to pursue this girl.
Yeah.
And when I mean pursue, that means pursue marriage. That was also something that had to be, I would say, healed within myself as well, because then I grew into the point where I realized I am worth more than a 4-year, 5-year dating relationship girlfriend title. Like, if you want me, you need to come with a ring. You need to come with more intention. You need to come different than how we looked at college. And that's when things just started to unsurface.
Yeah.
So,
unravel even.
So he started to tell me all of the things that he had done in school that he had previously lied about. He started to admit all of these, lies, and started just being truthful and honest about who he was in school. Now, I will add that I don't think anything he told me really surprised me. Maybe there were some things, but for the most part, there was nothing that he told me that I wasn't shocked by. Again, my gut had already told me a lot of what was happening. It was just, I was caught up in that, physical, intimate relationship. I really didn't see past that once we, broke up and made up. So he's telling me all of this thing, but it's different when you feel like something's not right to when someone actually admits something was not right.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. It's a whole different thing but I will say that there was no option. There was no way that I was going to leave this in any longer. I wasn't going to be able to live this life. I wasn't going to be that guy who kept dating her or eventually courted her to marry her and then ended up doing the same things that I was doing in college or in high school, or not in high school, but, and just continuing down that same path. I knew that wasn't going to work. And I just had this strong level, this urge to be truthful about who I was. And it didn't go well at all.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you liked our story. It probably wasn't the most beautiful story, but it ends beautifully.
Yes, if you're interested to see how this guy went from being that guy to the guy I am now, please, like she said, stay tuned. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.